Asculți aBC Podcast. Conversații cu arhitecți, designeri și antreprenori creativi gata să împărtășească din experiența lor antreprenorială cu Armina Popeanu.
Hi, as probably you might know, this week I went to PSN in Cambridge. The fourth Possibility Studies Conference was organized by Vlad Glaveanu, Constance de Saint Laurent, Wendy Ross and Pamela Bond here in Cambridge. And it's our 50th podcast episode, so I thought we can celebrate with one collage of short interviews with some of the researchers I've met last years in Geneva and in Dublin, and I've met again other researchers they worked during last year. So I had the opportunity and the chance to talk with Oana Velcu-Laitinen. She's a Finnish researcher in creativity, but also a coach, and she's dealing with digital leadership in the businesses she's working with. So if you can remember, I interviewed her also in one of our first podcasts. I think it's the second one, so you can revisit this episode. I also talked to Felipe Zamana. He's a Brazilian researcher in creativity and ecosystems. He's living in Portugal and studying in Paris, and we've met in Dublin and we are talking in Cambridge, so we're quite global. He does a lot of interesting work in networks and ecosystems in creativity, and he also had a very interesting book that you can find on Amazon. Then is Professor Dr. Minh Tang. She's a researcher in creativity, bridging cultural creativity between Germany and China. She's from China, but she is living in Germany from 20 years now. And with Margaret Mangion, she's from Malta, from the Bono Institute of Creativity, and she's doing a lot of research in education and how you could integrate creativity in educational strategies. I hope that you are enjoying this episode, and why not, you are finding it inspiring, because I know we are not talking about research and creativity and everything we are doing in this field of research here in the podcast, but maybe we could do this more often, just to take some inspiration and applying it into the regular business as usual things that we are doing in our daily life. Please introduce yourself very briefly.
Okay, so my name is Felipe Zamana. I'm a researcher at the University of Paris, and I'm studying creativity in an ecosystem perspective.
Okay, very cool. What does creativity thinking mean for you, Felipe?
I don't actually believe in creativity thinking because we all use creativity all the time. So it's not about switching to a different thinking. We are always looking for something in our work, or normally are looking for something new, or a new perspective, a new understanding, or something like that. So this is already thinking creatively. So I don't think there is a statical or a specific ways to think creatively. So it's more on a kind of a mindset or approach when you open to receive this kind of different inputs.
I'm Margaret Mangion, Director at the Edward de Bono Institute for Creative Thinking and Innovation at the University of Malta.
What does creativity thinking mean for you, Margaret?
Creative thinking is something that we can all do. It's something that we can learn and become very good at. It's a skill that we can use to facilitate creativity in our everyday life. So to say, when you're thinking creatively, you set yourself a problem or a challenge that you would like to solve. You look up information for that challenge, and then you start to think about possible solutions. And then you can evaluate those solutions and take them forward to see how you can implement them according to your problem or situation that you would like to change. So creative thinking is very broad, can be applied by anyone, from children to 99 plus, and it's something that we can learn. Because some people think that creative thinking is something that you are born with, but it's not the case. You can learn it at any point in time, and you can become proficient at it as well.
So, Oana, what does creativity thinking mean for you?
Hi, Armina. That's a very good question because here in this field of creativity, we may not all agree, but to me, creativity thinking is a set of skills which starts with imagination and then with intuition and then with the ability to actually put in action these ideas that come from imagination and intuition. So it's a set of skills.
Hello everybody, my name is Ming. I'm from China, but I have been living in Germany for 20 years.
Min, what does creativity thinking mean for you?
Creativity thinking for me is really to jump out of the box. I know it's cliche, but it's really this, but it is easy said than done because we have so many boundaries. Our personal boundaries, environmental boundaries, our cultural boundaries or baggage, that many barriers. But we really need to jump out of the box to discover different new perspectives, new possibilities.
Mm-hmm. And what about jumping out of the box, but culturally?
Culturally is not easy. Because culture shapes us, shapes our thinking, shapes our behavior, shapes our perception. And we should really purposefully do that, which means we should be aware that each person has the boundaries and restrictions. And we should purposefully force ourselves to explore the perspective. In this sense, I really like what Robert Sternberg said. He said, creativity is a decision. At the first place, it's really a decision. You decide to do something new. You decide to challenge yourself. You decide to take risks. It's a decision as the first step.
Asculți aBC Podcast cu Armina Popeanu.
Thinking about our audience, the creative entrepreneurs in creative industries, do you have any advice for them? How should they apply their creative mindset in the businesses they have?
Well, it could be a romantic view, but I think if you believe in something truly, and it's not about believing your dreams, not that kind of meaning, but if you really believe that something it's meaningful and will transform not just you, but can help others and can be something valuable, eventually will become something interesting and therefore creative. So I think the most important thing is doing something that it's meaningful for you, that you really like. And because I like to think this, everything you choose in your life or can choose in your life will be hard. There's no easy path. So it's better to at least be something that you like. So,
or you love,
exactly,
or you're good at.
Exactly. So I think this is the easy way, let's say. Because if you try something that you don't really like, it will be even harder because you don't like it. And after some time, it will be like painful and, I don't want to do this anymore. But it's something that you really care about, will be a little easier.
The advice would be not to be overconfident of being a very creative person. If you are one of those people who think I'm very creative, don't be very overconfident. And how you can overconfidence is by thinking, okay, what would be my strength when it comes to creativity? Maybe some people are very imaginative, but they're not very good at executing. So how can I improve my weaknesses, the ability to execute? So that would be the advice for the people who are consider themselves more highly creative. And for the people who consider themselves, I'm not a creative individual, I encourage them to actually start to believe more in themselves and to look for those activities that make them feel alive.
Thinking about our audience, about entrepreneurs in creative industries, do you have any advice for them? How should they apply creativity in their business?
That's a very good question, because very often when we talk about business, the primary aim is to be profitable, to be efficient, to make ends meet at the end of the month, and to survive. Very often, unfortunately, entrepreneurs, or let's say people working in SMEs, so small, medium enterprises, would find that they say, we don't have enough time for this, we don't have enough budget for this, we cannot this or we cannot that. And the thing is, when they start to think creatively and solve their problems in such a way, they end up turning their business around. So it will take some effort at the beginning, because you have to make the time for it, but then eventually it will become like a second language.
In the businesses, I have a very funny experience. After my dissertation, I was invited to give creative thinking to managers. At the time, not entrepreneurs. Nowadays, is like zeitgeist. I can imagine also entrepreneurs. And I have sent them my structure, what the content would be. They were happy about content, but they asked me to change the title. They say, why creative thinking, innovative thinking? So my first suggestion is for the entrepreneurs, please be aware that creativity and innovation, they are interlinked, because I can sense some bias against creativity, particularly in German culture, where I have living for the past 20 years. German people tend to think creativity belongs to kindergarten, when the kids are drawing, are playing, or creativity is something small, is not serious. But we managers, we entrepreneurs, we are doing innovation, we are doing something big. So this is a really, if they can change this sort of bias, it would be a great step, because they will be open to many possibilities.
Asculți aBC Podcast cu Armina Popeanu.
What are your most surprising findings in your research about creativity and ecosystems?
Well, that's a good question. To be honest, I think the most incredible find I had recently was this theory from Howard Gruber called evolved systems, because a lot of things I was already thinking about, Gruber said in his theory. So I was like, yes, this is what I was looking for. And what struck me the most in his theory is the simplicity of it. It's so beautiful, so well explained, and it's simple. And basically you have this organizing question that in your life, in your work. It don't need to be clear for you what it is. So you don't have, I have this question. No, sometimes you don't even know. You have like a whole life without knowing. But you have this thing that you really want to answer, this what drives you forward. I don't like to use the word purpose, because it's already too well used and it have other meanings. So I like this thing of the organizing question. And to answer this question, you have to reorganize your resources. And by resources, not just financial. It's your time, it's your space, it's your network, it's the people knowledge, you know. Exactly. So everything, it's resource. And you have to reorganize to match this path you choose. But at the same time, you are discovering your own question through work. So it's a feedback loop. The more you work on, the more questions you have, and you're gonna tuning through your own work and path. So this is the very simple theory explanation for the theory of Howard Gruber, and this makes a lot of sense for me. And if you think as yourself as an ecosystem, and you have your own local ecosystem. So you have people you know, people that can help you. You have access to to certain resources, like you can meet someone that can open doors for you or something like that. And you have to navigate with this. So it's not just complaining about what is missing, what is wrong, but okay, this is my reality. How can I use what I have right now to do what I want to do? So this would be the greatest finding in my work.
The most surprising findings from my research, if we think now about the research I'm doing on creativity and leaders in digital transformations, one surprising research was to actually see that leaders who see that they are more creative, they are more involved in communicating with their teams and in actually suggesting new themes for their teams to focus on, whereas leaders who are less creative, even though they are creative but they think they are not creative, they are seeing themselves more like kind of brokers of the ideas of their teams. And this is very surprising because it has like quite big consequences for how these dynamics between leaders and teams are actually taking place, and this dictates the capacity to innovate and to improve.
Oana, because we had the second episode of the podcast, of aBC podcast, what was with you in Romania. Tell us about your book.
Yes, my book is my third baby. Is now 2 years old. It was published in 2022, and it's about creative identities at work. The core idea in the book is that each one of us has 4 types of identities. We can be the artist, we can be the entrepreneur, we can be the philosopher, and we can be the leader. So that's my book about encouraging each one of us to find which of these identities we want to develop next in our work. And the book is doing great. I'm still getting money from my publisher, and it's a book that it's gonna affect readers throughout the long life.
What are your most surprising findings in your research? You are researching in creative education and everything.
So essentially, we've carried out a lot of interesting research recently. One of them found that, for example, people who had high creative self-efficacy were very good at critical thinking. And there was also a positive link with creative self-efficacy and hope. So being positive and future-oriented. On the other hand, stress was negative in relation to how creative self-efficacy was manifested. So just for the listeners, creative self-efficacy is our belief about how good we are at solving problems. And more recently, we have conducted a study where we explored creative self-efficacy and the creative mindset, so being ready to explore with things like the possible, so possibility thinking. And we found that the more people felt confident about their creative self-efficacy, the higher their disposition to be good at possibility thinking, so good at looking and embracing options, about being aware that there are different opportunities and different possibilities, and about wanting to take the risk about possibilities.
Really, the recent research, which I presented on Monday, we have conducted an experimental study to help us answer the question, will generative AI, such as ChatGPT, facilitate our creativity or hinder our creativity? This is our curiosity we want to find out. So we did literature search and we found an interesting gap in this so far conducted study. There are many studies, they compare people who use ChatGPT and not. Okay, with ChatGPT or without. But we found, hey, moment, the design, there is a flaw in the design because the people who work with creativity, they are enforced because ChatGPT, work with ChatGPT. ChatGPT is such a powerful cognitive partner, so knowledgeable, has so much information. So it's a cognitive enhancement. But then you have the control group, they don't work with ChatGPT and they are alone. They don't have any cognitive enforcement at all. So we designed our study, so we put the participants into 4 conditions. One condition, each condition, they've got a cognitive partner. Condition 1, human, another cognitive partner. Condition 2 is what we have been used to doing till now. When we have a question, we Google it. Okay? Mm-hmm. Second is human, Google search. And the third and the fourth groups are human and ChatGPT. But the third group, they have very simple introduction about what ChatGPT is, what ChatGPT can do. And group 4, they have specific, more information about ChatGPT and example prompts. So the surprising result was we have the hypothesis that the human ChatGPT group would be the most creative because ChatGPT has a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, and can bring this knowledge information even cross the time, and cross the borders, cross cultures. And this is very important for creative, particularly creative ideas. But the surprising result was human, and the human group wins. They got the most creative ideas. We were surprised at the beginning and we were confused. Mm-hmm. But when we dig deeper into the data, we realized no wonder human group was the most creative. Very simple, we conducted correlation of the variables. One variable was time. How much time you spend in this creative task. Based on the meta-analysis, we didn't set time restriction. Mm-hmm. This is also, by the way, the limitation of some existing experimental study. They set time restriction. Okay, come up with some creative ideas within 2 minutes. My goodness, 2 minutes is actually almost impossible for creative ideas. We just put the participants and say, okay, you have the creative tasks. Take as much as the time you like. No time restriction. And we see the significant correlation between the time spent on the task and the creative results. The human group, they spend significantly more time on the task. And ChatGPT group, a human ChatGPT group, they didn't need so much time. They evaluate, okay, the task was easy and it's interesting with ChatGPT, but they didn't spend enough time for that. So this tells us a lot because you also study creativity. Creativity is not like, I get a creative idea from the heavens suddenly. It's actually a long process.
Thank you, Min. Thank you. So if you want to know more about every research that we've talked about here in this anniversary episode, in the 50th episode of aBC, A Business of Creativity podcast, you can find everyone, Oana, Felipe, Min, and also Margaret on LinkedIn. You can find also the links directing you to LinkedIn and their research in the comments of the show. Thank you for listening to us.
Ai luat parte la aBC Podcast. Dacă ți-a plăcut materialul, dă-ne follow pe platforma pe care ne asculți sau urmărește-ne pe Insta, A Business of Creativity, Facebook sau pe site antreprenoriatcreativ.ro.